is to guide you through the media world. Okay, audience, here's Stacy and John.
I'm Stacy Hollis.
I am John Brandon.
John is not in the studio with us. He is out in the field, as we say.
I'm at a Whataburger in Anchorage, Alaska.
A Whataburger. I heard they have. Don't they like eat bears and stuff like that up there? I didn't know. I mean,
I'm parked next to Sarah Palin and a grizzly bear.
Well, you gotta be careful. You know, I heard she got mad at her ex-husband and she gave him a shiner. So be careful. You don't want to upset that woman. You definitely don't want to do that. Well, anyway, thank you everybody for listening today to Movies and More. And we've got just an incredible guest. This woman is, she's an actress. She's a producer. She does casting. She's a mom. Yeah, she's a model. Oh my God, is she ever? And at some point we've got to send out to all of our fans her picture autographed, because you'll want it after you look at her one time. She's that good to look at, But anyway, she comes from Denver, Colorado, of all places. I think, if I've got the name of the city right. But she originally has a Latino background, which I'll let her talk about. But before I make another mistake like I did last week, I'm not going to do that. We want to welcome everybody, and we want to welcome her to the show, Ali Escagavi. Hello. Okay. Hi, Ali.
Hi, Stacy. Hello, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on air and on your radio station. I am very, very, extremely happy and just very graciously that you've asked me to be on.
Well,
thank you very much.
It's our honor and pleasure. Normally what I do when we talk to folks that have what we call dual careers, they have like a day job, which everybody that starts out in the business has. And then, of course, they're either in the movies or the theater or whatever genre they happen to be pursuing. I always ask, how did you get your start? But basically, I guess in the film industry, how did that come about?
Well, this came about. It's been a journey for sure, and it's been a great journey. Basically, my kids were just teens. I was a single mom, and at certain age, kids, basically, mom is not the important factor in their lives, and they just want to be more or less with their friends, right? Mm-hmm. And so I found myself just trying to fill a void. I'm like, well, I like to be busy. And I was thinking, well, you know what? Why don't I go back and do modeling? Because that's what I used to do in my late teens, early 20s. And it just happened to be that I got on a set as an extra, and I got the bug. If you know what I mean with that, you get the bug with acting, and you can't get it out. So it basically started in my 40s, and I just really enjoyed myself being on set.
Wow.
And it grew from there.
How in the world are you able to do that with working the job that you do, which is real estate, which I want to ask you about a little bit later, but also being a mother? I mean, how do you juggle that?
So I wasn't a real estate agent back then when I did start. I did have a Monday through Friday job. But how I managed it is I had a very understanding boss. And so when I would have auditions or anything having to do with acting, auditioning, he would give me permission to just leave. And I would either make up the work going in early or just staying later to make up that time.
Okay. How do your children handle it when you're gone on a location for extended periods? Is it something that they're able to deal with pretty well? Did you prepare them?
You know what? At the beginning, of course, you start with more local gigs. You're not necessarily flying out anywhere. And how I would handle it if I did have anything for an extensive period, it was either, just family, a group that supports you. So I have my sister, I have my parents. I would take them there, or they would be with their dad.
Right.
So just time management, just making it work. If there's a will, there's a way.
Well,
So I made it work.
Well, we're in an industry that has to be very family supportive for everybody to achieve what they want to. And I know many kids that have grown up in the industry. John will probably know what I'm talking about. We're just mentioning this guy the other day, Ronnie Howard, Opie, from in the Andy Griffin Show. He grew up in the business, and his mom and dad were just very, very supportive. And as I said, they kept his head on straight. And he developed from the Opie days in Andy Griffin into Happy Days, and has became one of the greatest directors in the business. But that was just an example where both he and I believe his brother, am I correct, John? His brother was also an actor.
His brother is still an actor. His name's Clint. I believe he's a couple years older than Ron. And just a nugget here. If you've ever seen the movie Cool Hand Luke, their father actually was in that. He was one of the sheriffs that was chasing Luke with the dogs. About maybe halfway through the film, so he had an understanding of the film business.
Well, everybody was working in that family. I mean, there wasn't a lazy person. That was for sure, But my point is this: is that if the family is behind you, you find a way. You come together and you say, "Listen, we want to get this thing done." Mom's trying to, kind of make it into biz, and just as long as the love and the camaraderie is there. And I remember an interview with Ronnie Howard. He said probably the best thing is that when we were away from the studio, it was quality time with mom and dad and his brother that you mentioned. And I think there was a TV series, now think about it, that his brother was in, Gentle Ben. Am I correct with that?
I'm not sure about that, but I know he was on an episode of The Twilight Zone where he knew the world was going to end and he was afraid to tell everybody, right? Ooh. And then at the end, the world ends. You remember that episode?
Yes, I do. Now that you mention it, I sure do. Absolutely. Well, see, now we're giving away our age, Allie. We had her convinced that we were both 39. We blew it. We absolutely blew it. We're 49, actually, is what but no, I remember that show quite well. Absolutely. I do remember that episode. That was for sure.
Way before Allie's time.
Well, I think so. I absolutely, judging by the picture, I would say it was at least a half a century before something like that.
Yeah.
But look, I actually remember the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really got into it. I was very young, but I do remember it. So,
Allie, what was one or two shows or films that you saw that really influenced you, where you said, you know what, I got to do that someday? Is there anything that jumps out at you, stands out?
I will point out somebody that was very influential in my very young years.
Okay.
And I look at her like such an influencer and a role model. Lucille Ball.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great example.
Yes.
I'm a huge Lucille Ball fan. I love her, just everything. And she was such a comedian. And I don't know if anybody has watched any of the documentaries about her and Debbie Arnaz.
Yes.
I just love that woman even more. It's so great to dig in and really see what she was about. So I would say her. And then growing up, when I was 8 years old, John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John.
Okay.
That,
You
that,
wouldn't have happened to see Grease, which
oh yes.
you named them together.
Right, right.
Yep.
right.
I don't know how many times, but I've watched that over like 30, 40 times. I know the music, like every scene in the movie, and I even have like my youngest son is a big fan as well. So
Oh.
we've
Okay.
watched those together.
That's
And
great.
let me just add one quick thought to Lucille Ball, just to go backwards just for a second.
Sure.
Most people don't understand she wasn't just this comedic actress that got lucky in a TV series. She was acting in a serious way in films. She was gorgeous when she was in her 20s and 30s, and she was
Yes.
actually in one or two episodes of The Three Stooges. And her and her husband Desi Arnaz actually started Desilu Studios, and one example of something they produced was All in the Family,
Yep.
which was one of the huge hits of the 1970s.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Weren't
I
they the
remember
pioneers?
there were
Sorry, weren't
pioneers.
they the pioneers
Yeah.
of the live shows?
Yes, absolutely. Now to John's point, I was fortunate. I met this is many years ago. I met a guy that actually worked with Lucy and Desi, and I don't know, John, if you knew this or not, but what we call the multiple camera shoot, or the 3 camera or 4 camera shoot on a sitcom,
Yes.
they
Sure.
actually incorporated that, because before they do, they shoot a certain angle, then they'd have to move the camera and so forth. And this gentleman's
Right.
name was Jim Wright, who has since passed away. But when I talked to Jim, this was back in the 80s. And he and Desi had actually put together that whole concept, which is now just a standard, you know, operational procedure for sitcoms and other productions. But there were so many innovations, to Allie's point, different things that they came up with. I mean, but no, she was incredible. And I remember there was an interview with Desi, and of course they were divorced at the time he was talking, but he said, I
Mhm.
have got to give Lucy all the credit. She was the absolute rock. She was the
Force.
base, yes, the driving force behind
Yes.
this company. And there were so many things that she came up with, that, just, and he ran off a couple of them, and they were just almost, I don't want to say revolutionary, but they were certainly things that they do now. And the bottom line was that he was saying in retrospect that she was a rock behind the whole operation, and he almost got a little teary eyed when he talked about but
Sure.
we all loved her, and and then that simple cast, that 4 person cast. What was it? Fred Mertz, right?
Yes.
Ethel, and then Desi, and so I mean, as productions go, they didn't spend a lot of money on the cast. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a low budget production, and that's the name of the game. And they, gosh,
Right.
that's how it came to go. Allie, let me ask you something. And some of the things that you've done, and I mean, gosh, there's quite a list here. What was your favorite role, or looking back up to this point? I know you want to do more things, but what's a big thing that you've done that you're really proud of that you'd share with us today?
Well, what I will mention is one of my favorite things was actually a music video with a local band here that has toured. Their name is Faith Vocal, FACE Vocal, and they're an a cappella band. And they did a smash up of Jesse's Girl / Stacy's Mom, and it's really cute. I don't know if you guys have had the chance to look at that. It is on YouTube, or if you pull it up, Stacy's or Jesse's Girl / Stacy's Mom. It's just a cute video, and the boys, the people in the band, the whole crew,
Mhm.
they were so great. And they do a lot of like religious songs as well. It's not all that, but just a bunch of nice men. on
What
that
was
group.
your role?
So
What was your
I was
exact role with that video?
I was Jesse's mom, Stacy's girl, or Jesse's
Oh.
girl, Stacy's mom. Sorry.
Okay.
I was starting to think I was
That's
in
awesome.
something I forgot about.
Those are two legendary songs.
Yeah.
The Stacy's Mom, that's a legendary video with a very
Yes,
famous
yes.
supermodel, I believe. Trying to
Right.
think what her name is. But Jesse's Girl,
Hunt.
that's from the. Sorry.
Is it Stacy's Hunt? Rachel Hunt. Rachel Hunt.
Rachel Hunter, perhaps.
Yes. Yes.
And then Jesse's Girl was a Rick Springfield song from the early
Correct.
to mid '80s, I do believe.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. Right after he got off a general hospital playing a doctor, right?
Yes.
No, there's a show that's been around. God, how many years, John? That like General Hospital, like 40
like-
years, at least, right?
Oh, no, 50 or 60.
There you go. Okay.
And if I am ever going to have a serious operation, I want a guy that looks like Rick Springfield operating on me.
Absolutely.
You know,
right.
That's
absolutely.
the most important thing.
You got
He was a handsome man.
Yes,
still
he was.
is.
Yes, he was.
Absolutely. And I loved his music for about 5 years.
Yes.
Back in the days of the music video, when it was king, MTV was king, when it was real. We want to ask you, we want to touch on something that we mentioned to you last night, Allie, the whole indie film scene, right? How much of an indie film scene is there in Denver right now where you are?
There's quite a bit. Denver in general is more of a commercial state. So a lot of commercials are made here, but we do have a lot of indie makers. It's a huge scene, and with the whole streaming platforms that have come into, our generation now, it's been just such a great opportunity and door opener for all these filmmakers, actually, and I would say nationwide, worldwide, because now people are realizing, you know what, you can film with an iPhone, or your own camera. It's opened the doors.
It's
to
exploded.
A lot of people. It has.
The accessibility of the technology. Just to throw one more thought in, the accessibility of the technology and the low cost, and the availability gives everybody the opportunity to make a film, whether it's good,
exactly.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Francis, I was just going to add one more thought to that. Francis Ford Coppola, who made the greatest movie ever made, in my humble opinion, he was talking 50 years ago about, someday people are just going to be making movies with these little video cameras, that they're just starting to develop. And some 16-year-old girl is going to make a classic film someday, just doing something really different.
Exactly.
Blair Witch Project. I mean, that guy did it on a cell phone, I think, right? Right, John?
I think it was a black and white camcorder.
Maybe a camcorder. But the point,
but
the point was, I mean, they were embarrassed by saying how little it cost. And I remember looking up. I said, "Oh no, this got to be wrong." It was like $200 million it grossed or something.
Yeah.
I'm
thinking
it was a typo. They had to make a mistake. No, it grossed $200 million. I mean, you don't have to make movies like that. I mean, that guy could retire at like 23 or however old he was when he made it.
Yeah, the girl that was in the Steak and Shake commercials, she was kind of the Steak and Shake pitch woman for a couple of years. She was the one that played one of the main characters in that.
Wow.
And she continued to do the Steak and Shake commercials.
I hope she's getting royalties. She's entitled. That's for sure.
So I guess what we're asking you, Allie, is how long do we have to wait before you're in that category with what you're doing?
You know what? I am just enjoying the journey along the way. And if I get to that point, I will be very happy. I will be a very happy woman. But honestly, I look for projects that fulfill me in so many other ways. It doesn't necessarily mean monetary, like just earn so much money. It just has to be meaningful to me, and that's what I look for. I don't go after the dollar amount. It's just the actual project and what it means to me. So,
Sure.
but that's
Let me-
all.
You and I have a lot of similarities with what we do. We do numerous jobs in these indie films. When I'm working on a project that I'm about to start shooting in a couple of months, I cast it, I wrote it, I'm using it.
Okay.
I'm going to direct it. I'm actually going to DP it because I have a lot of experience. I worked in television news for 10 years.
You're going to
Shot my
work
own
the
stories.
concession booth too, right, John? You're going to sell concessions.
I'm going to make the
Right,
hot
okay,
dogs.
I want to make sure. All
Sew
right.
the costumes. Yes, I'm going to.
So merchandise.
Casting. Yeah, casting, Allie. You mentioned
Okay.
to us that is something you enjoy. What makes a good casting person?
I think it's just understanding each role and what the writer is after. Because for me, again, I co-wrote Red Scarlet, a project that I have coming up.
A horror film. Right.
Yes, I know what the character looks like in my head, right?
Sure.
But if
Sure.
you're talking to the writer or whoever is putting the project together as a casting director or casting assistant, like you can, if you understand that person, what they're looking for, and you read the script and you understand it as well, I think it's just, it boils down to connecting that script, the writers, and understanding that quite clearly. For me, like, I kind of, if I was casting this project, if I'm casting this part, what is the character? You understand, and just get a clear understanding of what the character is in the script. I think it makes you a good casting agent. I'm also I work in so many industries that I know a lot of people. And so I believe like I have a good pool of networking that allows me to, okay, so I have a script. I need to cast a woman in her 40s. She needs to look a certain way, or maybe they don't really understand what she should look like. I feel like I just have that connection with people and
Sure.
understand the characteristics, personality, maybe some of the mannerisms this person needs to have. So it's just getting to know and understand that.
Yeah, and let me throw this thought in, and I'll let Stacy jump in. We got about a couple of minutes before the break.
Sure.
I see when I write and then cast and then direct and then edit the film, I actually see my film 4 times. The first time is when you finish the script. You actually can see the story. The time
Right.
when it most comes to life to me is when I cast and you see the people, the human beings that are going to play these characters. That is the strongest evidence of what I'm going to have. And I'm right at that point right now where I'm finalizing my cast for my upcoming film. Stacy.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Well, we're coming down to where we've got about 2 minutes left. And before we go to our commercial break, Allie, you've got a couple of things in the hopper, as we say. We're going to want you to talk about your production role, or I guess it's executive producer role, as we talked about. We'll want you to talk about that a little bit. And there's a lot of folks out there that would love to get into business, and they always hear about the difficult part. One of the things I want you to touch upon is how you were able to secure an agent. In the business, it's often said, well, to get an agent, you have to be in the business. But to be in the business, you have to have an agent. So it's kind of a catch-22 thing, and I know how difficult that is. I want you to touch on that when we come back, because we've got some young listeners out there that are wanting to learn about what it takes to kind of get the representation that gets you where you need to be in the business. So I think that's going to be very, very
Sure.
important, And so, like I said, we're coming up on a commercial break here in just a little bit, but everybody stick around for more movies and more. And when we return, we'll be talking some more with Allie.
Have you always wanted to write your own book but don't know where to start? Publishing Concepts, a publishing company located right here in St. Louis, offers everything from consulting, book printing, copyrights, ISBNs and barcodes, print book layout, ebook and iBook layout, graphic design, cover design, ghostwriting, typing and editing, distribution, marketing, and more for an affordable price. Visit publishingconceptsllc.com or just Google Publishing Concepts to get started today, or call 314-781-8880. That's 314-781-8880. Publishing Concepts. We help you sell more books.
El Potro Restaurant and Market, located at 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland, offers the finest variety of Mexican and Central American groceries and goods. El Potro Restaurant serves authentic Mexican and Central American cuisine, including daily specials, not to mention the best horchata and tastiest margaritas in St. Louis. Open 7 days a week. El Potro, 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland.
Hola amigos, this is Cardinals broadcaster Polo Asensio, inviting you to join us on Sunday, July 28th, when the Cardinals host the Washington Nationals. On this day, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a Cardinals polo. No, not me. A polo shirt featuring an STL all over print design. Thanks to Busey Bank. This is the first promo of its kind, so it's one you don't want to miss. Get your tickets today at cardinals.com/promotion.
Join Benji Molina and Polo Asensio for every Cardinal home game right here on the Spanish sports voice of St. Louis, 102.9 KXOK.
And welcome back to Movies and More, where we've been talking with Allie Escalay regarding the wonderful world of show business and how a single mom with babies can make it into business. And she's been most forthcoming, telling us about the ups and downs of her career. And just before we left, we said we were going to talk about what it was like to break into business, and more importantly, how a talent can secure an agent, which, as I said before, not the easiest thing in the world to do. You kind of got to have a pedigree, and you got to be pushed. And someone once told me it's like a board game. It takes a one to go up, but there's a two on the dice kind of thing. So somebody's got to kind of move you along. So, Allie, tell us what it was like for you to secure an agent, and by all means, give that person a plug, because that's very, very important in your career.
Sure. And you know what? I just want to mention, this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I love talking to people about how to get into the business, because it's not an easy one, as everyone knows. But again, if there's a way, you have a dream, go after it, and age shouldn't determine your success. Just go after it, because there's plenty of opportunity. First of all, I would say for someone that is coming in and has no experience at all, what you do is you get on Facebook groups. Wherever you are locally, there's Facebook groups for acting, for film, for indie stuff, whatever. And how you get started, how you get involved is networking. When you network, you get to know people. And you know what? You volunteer. Volunteer to be on set if that's what you're interested in working. Volunteer, be on set, be a PA assistant, production assistant. Do whatever you can to get involved in the industry. As an actor, you volunteer to get on projects for free. Small roles, you start with a small role, and you start building up a resume. And within that resume, once you have a few things on the resume that you've done, and Photography as well is another thing that is a must. You don't understand how important it is. It's like your business card, right, that you're giving out. So photographs, you can't afford it, start with somebody that is looking to get into the photography, and you exchange. You're the model, so they can take photographs of you, and you have some headshots. You have some character shots. Maybe you're wearing your hair up versus down, just simple things like that. And then once you have a couple of the projects down on a resume, you approach an agent. But before that as well, you would start with acting lessons if you can, because acting lessons are pretty expensive. Locally, you can find classes, workshops that you can do. Those normally are a little bit more affordable. And you can find stuff online as well. So Zoom calls, start taking the classes if you're interested. You will see a significant growth with classes. So just doing whatever you can, building whatever you can, and then you approach an agent. For me, it was a little bit easier when I decided to get back into it because I did have the modeling experience, but I volunteered at the beginning. Again, you have to start somewhere, so don't be afraid to start getting involved with volunteering, networking, all of it, because it will help you at the end.
Well, my sister Mary, excuse me, John, was a graduate of UCI in '83. She was a fine arts major, and everything
Okay.
you just said about breaking into business almost absolutely paralleled what she was involved in. I remember she said she got a couple breaks. She was able to be in some TV stuff and so forth before she went into, as we say, the baby business, And
Right.
actually, she had an educational minor and a fine arts, a fine arts major and an educational minor. And of course, she became a school teacher. I mean, that's only makes sense, right? That's what she did.
Okay,
But
right.
but she said the toughest part was sometimes getting someone to come out to a play or come out to she did a lot of community theater and she did a lot of stuff in school. Did you ever experience that? Did you ever have the ability to bring either an agent or a producer or someone that was in the business to come out to see you? And if so, how did you do that? Because I know that was a big challenge for Sis. That's what she tried to do.
It come out to see me
Yes.
where?
Well, like if you were doing community theater or doing a play someplace, where I mean, it wasn't really professional at that point. It was amateur theater, but you tried to get somebody to see you. She was constantly trying to get people to come out and watch her to kind of, show her ability. Did you ever experience that at all?
Not really, but I can kind of speak as far as, some of the stuff out here locally in Colorado. You do invite people, maybe it's a talent agency, to see if they're, because talent agencies are always recruiting new talent. And that's just a good way to possibly, kind of have exposure to yourself or maybe your students that are doing this theater or whatever event that you're having. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's a great idea, a great avenue to go with if that's, if you're wanting exposure for people. But no, I've never personally had to do that. I just mostly volunteered and just being on set. You never know who you're going to meet on set. Also, even if it's for like an extra part, because that's where you can also start. A lot of people do get their beginning, a start from just doing extra work.
Yeah. Could I expand on that for just a second, Alan?
Sure.
I have done a casting call through Backstage recently. I ran the ad twice, and I had 200 or 300 people coming at me for my low budget indie that I said I'm going to shoot in the St. Louis area, and I'm looking for cast and crew. And any actor that comes to me that I just know they have like no experience, it might be somebody that's right out of high school or something. I'll give them a monologue or a sides demo to do for me. Show me you doing one of my characters. And if I don't feel like they're there yet as an actress, or they don't fit that role, I always mention to them, would you have any interest in being a production assistant? And if they just are willing, that shows me so much. A lot of them will write back and say, absolutely. Like, you just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll be an extra hand on set. And if you're an up and coming actor and you're serious about it, getting into a film set or even a play set and seeing the interaction between the director and the actors and just the whole approach from both sides, that gives you so much more of an understanding of what it's all about. I think that is, you probably know that as well as anybody, which transitions into my next question for you. I know you're executive producing now, and basically to me, an executive producer is the person who finds the money, helps secure the funding for the film.
Yes.
Like when you see that title in any film you watch, that's the person that helped make it happen, basically.
Exactly.
How did you end up in that role? Were you pulled into it, or were you trying to get to that?
You know what? Yes, pulled into it. So like I mentioned, my network is so diverse. And I know directors, some producers, a lot of actors, indie filmmakers. So how I got introduced with that, on LinkedIn, somebody reached out and just asked if I happen to know an investor.
Right.
So that really just got me interested and going in that direction, saying, well, let me think. And I do have just a good network. And so I just started talking to people in regards to investing films, getting to know who are the investors, who are the filmmakers. And so with myself and a friend of mine, we started just working together and trying to see, okay, how can we merge filmmakers and investors together? And so I've been working with her doing this. So yes, so what with Red Scarlet, her and I are merging as far as finding some financing on my end. And then I do have the producer that's producing my project. She's finding another source of financing. But yeah, it's very interesting just to learn this side of the business. Completely different. And as I'm sure you know, when it comes to financing, a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I'm interested. But when it comes down to it, it's very difficult.
Pulling teeth. Yeah.
Yes. So
well,
a
Francis,
lot of things. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you finish. You're the guest. You keep going.
I was just saying, it comes down to when it comes down to the money, a lot of times things that are happening in the world and locally take effect. So stock market, oh no, I can't because I lost money in crypto, so a lot of current events take effect with everyone's budget at the end of the day. So that's all.
You almost to me, you almost have to have a riverboat gambler mentality to want to throw some money into a film. You need a little excitement in your life, something different.
Yes.
Well, to that end, I'm sorry, John, I was just going to say to that end, we were just having this conversation a while back. I don't know if this is still the ground rules today, but it used to be that 100% of the financing got an investor 50% ownership of the film project. Now, I don't know if that was the case with Hallie or John. Have you experienced that with your fundraising at all, where you had to give up
You,
like 50% of the action?
you know, I think it just goes from project to project what
Gotcha.
the expectations are. I mean, you promise to get the money, and whatever you have to promise to secure your funding, you pretty much do it. You know, so I mean that's my philosophy.
I agree
Maybe
with
when
that.
I get
It just
when I get to the next level, I can be more dictatorial and stick to exact formats and. But for now, where I am and probably where Allie is, we're just trying to make deals, and make things happen.
Right.
And she mentioned Red Scarlet, which is a horror film, and we had a chance to ask her last night a little bit about the horror genre, which seems to be a very, very successful export for American films in general around the world. There's a high demand for American horror films, and that's why there are so many made.
Right.
What specifically do you like about that horror genre, Allie?
I can't specifically point anything out. Just growing up, I know what I liked and what I was into. Vampires. I guess just the creative aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Jaws
and it
when we
doesn't
talked
take a
last.
lot of.
You mentioned
Sorry, go ahead.
Jaws. You mentioned Jaws when we had a chance to speak a little bit last night, and I
Yes.
never really thought of Jaws as a horror movie, but it is.
It is.
It's disguised as an action film. You just don't see too many action films that are more of a horror film than an action film.
Right. Yeah, I mean that was I believe one of my very first ones. And so with that, now okay, little kids don't want to go in the ocean because of Jaws.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go in
I
the
remember.
bathtub, okay? When I saw that movie, I wouldn't take a shower for about 2 weeks. The family got rid of me. I stunk, but I wouldn't go near the water
Sprayed
because
them
of
out with
Jaws.
the
I wouldn't do it. It wasn't going to happen.
Well, I remember that was the first summer blockbuster release. I think it was in '75.
I think
And
you're
that's
right.
the movie that catapulted Steven Spielberg's career.
Well,
I
Richard.
think I was 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah. Well, Richard Dreyfuss was in that as well too. Remember, right? From American Graffiti.
How could we forget? You've been counting money your whole life.
Well, at that point, again, I remember an interview with Mr. Spielberg, and he was saying how, my gosh, there were so many challenges to overcome, and I think Jaws was actually the actual shark was a mechanical shark,
That didn't work worth a darn.
No, I mean, you had to like fake blood and all kinds of stuff, but no, it wasn't working well at all. And coordinating the boat with the mechanical device and making it look real, but gosh, he pulled it off. I mean, that was the most exciting movie I think we ever saw, And what was it? Roy Schneider, I guess, was the was the big guy on that? The policeman, yeah, or what yeah, he was a beach patrol or something, whatever it was. But I remember that was it was so intriguing, and but that was when you really liked to go to a movie, and that was like what I used to call as a kid a drive-in movie, okay, because you could like go to the concession stand or do something else. And you could still come back, and it was exciting the whole movie. So I mean, if you turn your head, you still watch a great movie. That was for sure.
So the question for Allie is, do you think you might have another Jaws type film inside of you somewhere down the road?
Not Jaws. I have vampires.
Ooh, better yet. Better
Yeah.
yet. Well, see, I think that's what the industry needs is more female, like actresses that go towards that genre. I mean, Allie, you that's your calling without any question. I agree. You were made for those
So
roles.
my Red Scarlet is a vigilante movie and female empowered. So she's the main character.
What's her name?
Her name is Scarlet.
Okay.
Title
How about
role.
that for a stupid question
Well,
on live radio?
John, we
What-
all make
it's
those.
okay.
We all make those from time to time. That's
It's okay.
She had the
Her
opportunity
name
to say, "Scarlet, dummy."
No, I would never.
no.
But her name's Scarlett Jones.
There you
That's
go.
the
Okay.
main character.
Well, it could have been O'Hara. Who's Ken Who? I mean, remember that name, right?
I love Gone with the Wind.
That was absolutely incredible. Now, did that win an Academy Award, John? Mr. Movie Trivia? That was pretty.
That actually came out in '39, which
Right,
was an
yeah.
incredibly powerful year for films.
Right.
There was so much competition because you had The Grapes of Wrath,
Yep.
you had The Wizard of Oz,
Yep.
and Gone with the Wind all came out in the same year. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
You know,
Really? I did not know that. I did not
yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
I believe it was 39. Yep.
Just so you know,
I-
John is Mr. Movie Trivia. We call him in the middle of the night. John, listen, I'm having an argument here with my son. Now, what about, and he says, do you know what time it is? We don't care, John. Just tell us the damn thing we want to know. but
I
John-
do believe Vivian Lee won for Best Actress.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
want to say that Clark Gable might have won for Best Actor. But the lady in The Grapes of Wrath won, I think it was Best Supporting Actress. And she was only in one other famous film where she was prominent, and that was My Darling Clementine. She wasn't nearly as big a role, but Henry Fonda's mother
right.
in
Absolutely.
Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah.
Can't remember
Okay.
what her name was.
Mom.
And didn't
Mom.
Vivian Leigh just recently pass away?
Yes, she did.
Actually, no. She died in like 1962. She was only like 50 years old. She had tuberculosis.
No.
Or
we
was
talk-
it Melanie?
Melanie, I think that's who you're thinking about. That's who I was thinking about too.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
right. Absolutely. Yeah. Now you mentioned 39, and I guess the big three you just mentioned: Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, Grapes of Wrath, and there was a fourth one. I'm struggling. I'm trying to think of what it was, but that was just like a bumper crop year for films. It was absolutely incredible.
One of the greatest years ever, I would say.
Right.
I've only seen Gone with the Wind twice from start to finish because it's like a 4-hour film, and
It's a long movie.
it's
Yes.
really, really long. But I forced myself to watch it about 25 years ago for the first time, and I was absolutely blown away. I rented it from Blockbuster Video and was watching it in an afternoon, and I just watched it straight through. I was fascinated with every aspect of it, and all the famous.
It's an incredible
actors
movie.
Yeah.
One of the things.
Can another Gone with the Wind ever be made again?
Oh gosh, I
Allie?
don't know.
I'm sure it can. Why not? It's movie magic.
It is movie magic.
Movie is magic. So
That's what I like to
not?
hear.
Absolutely.
That's what I
Yeah.
like to hear.
One of the things we wanted to talk about just a little bit, your dual careers. You know, actually multiple careers, but specifically your day job. And I guess you're. I want to make sure I give you the right title. You are a real estate agent, correct?
yes,
Right.
correct.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm curious. Let's say you're trying to close a deal on a house or whatever real estate property. Okay. And then
Okay.
and then the phone rings and you say, "Just excuse me," and then it's your agent on the other line says, "Listen, you got to be on this set or this casting thing about 20 minutes. Are you going to sacrifice your real estate business for sake of the industry? Or, I mean, just how dedicated are you to one or the other? Now, at some point in time, you're going to have to now. Just are you prepared to make that sacrifice, Allie? That's what I'm asking. You know,
Stacy, that is such a great question. But yes,
well, I was trying to be funny, but I guess it's really a point. I don't know.
See, so with being a real estate agent, yes, I mean, you have the flexibility. Obviously, you know, you have appointments set and all that. I could always reschedule, or if anything comes up like that, I can also have my husband, who is a real estate agent as well. So we work on a team, and that was the whole plan, is if I had something come up, he could step in for me. So whatever deal I have going on, I have him on it. So
he's a stand-in, a stand-in
Yes,
real estate agent, just like an actor.
So he does real estate agent, but you know, we do it together as a team, because that was the whole thought process. If I ever had anything like come up, just the example like that you gave me, Stacy,
Right.
I would have backup. I have a backup plan.
Well, of course, I know you would always service your clients, and I didn't mean to suggest otherwise,
course.
because you're an honorable person, and I know that if it was up to me, I'd say, well, sir, listen, you're just going to have to wait on that house, okay? I've got a movie to go to. I'll be back a couple of weeks, maybe a month, you know, or
Right.
but we all do what we
Hey,
have
are
to
you-
do.
Allie, are you ready for another dumb question? You being a real estate agent, wouldn't that make you inclined to possibly be a location manager for films? Or is
Of
that
course.
something?
I mean,
Yeah.
no, definitely. I do know the state very well. I'm always driving around, so that, you know, of course, I'm always, when I'm driving around and I see like a cute house, or just maybe a house that has acres of land, I always think about, oh my God, that would be a great location to film so and so or whatever, you know. Even
Sure.
like for my film that I have, I'm always looking at like warehouses or just different locations that are in particular for my film. So of course, yeah, that would be.
That's I think my least favorite thing to do with filmmaking is, I've done numerous low budget projects, and I've been my own location manager, and that's
Okay.
probably the most time consuming, lonely, tedious thing to me is you're just driving around. You're not totally sure what you're looking for. So you kind of have to pay attention to everything, anything that's
Right,
eye-catching,
right.
anything that's interesting, different, unique, bizarre in some cases.
Mhm.
Because you want your film to be memorable visually,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
You don't want it to be plain and ordinary looking.
Exactly.
You want weird stuff, like you look at the classic directors like Fellini and Sergio Leone, who did the spaghetti westerns. He found some interesting looking people to be extras, really unique looking, odd people. And it adds so much to the flavor of the film,
Right.
like when you
Yeah,
watch the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, I've seen
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
No, but it's funny too, because in an actual scene, like the art director, all the little details that you don't necessarily think about, but they're
Right.
so important in the scene.
Speaking
Well,
of a spaghetti western, I will never forget that one line that was handed down. I'm struggling to think of the actor's name, and I'm Mr. Trivia. You got to help me here. The same guy
Okay.
that played in Animal House, right?
Yeah.
Remember the Dean Wolfer, I think his name was.
Yes.
Okay, well
Yep.
he was
Yep.
in a spaghetti western, and he says, "Don't pee on my leg and try to tell me it's raining." And I thought that was
I
a
was-
cool. Remember that? That was the coolest line. And I tried to use it once in conversation. I guess I blew it and said, "Why would
Yeah.
you say that?" Well, it worked in the
Well,
movie.
You shouldn't
That was
have
a
done
great
it. You
line.
shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have done it during your wedding. first of all.
No. Well, it was my father-in-law. I thought I could get away with it. That's what am I?
I believe that was I think his name was John Warner, and I think you're talking about the outlaw Josie Wales.
That's what I'm talking about. That was it.
With Clint Eastwood.
Absolutely.
He played Dean Wormer, and he was also in the Dirty Harry, the first Dirty Harry movie.
Right, exactly. That was exactly what it was. And I remember when I guess they were casting that the whole thing for the Dean in that movie. He said, "Well, I can be funny." But there wasn't really like room for him to be funny. You know what I mean? He had to be kind of a bad guy. I'd call him a schmuck, but that was Yiddish. I wouldn't use that word. But he was a bad guy. But he was flunking everybody, so I guess he was doing his job, right? He had to do what he had to do.
Sometimes the more serious you are, the funnier it is when you're not trying to be funny. The more upsetting somebody is, the better it works for the scene.
Without any question. Ellie, I know you're doing some writing, and as John said, you're just an incredible person. You do so many things. Have you been writing?
Thank you.
Well, you're more than welcome, and I'm very appreciative of your talents. Have you been doing any writing lately? And if so, how do you kind of like, I mean, like I know when I do writing, I wait till particularly when my kids were younger, I'd get in bed by 9 or by 9:50. Oh, Dad, let me stay up. And like, shut up, I got to write, kind of a thing, But
go to bed.
But I did most of my writing between about 11 at night and believe it or not, by 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And now this is going to sound a little weird to people out there, except to my psychiatrist who has been helping me for decades. Okay, but long about 1 o'clock when it's like real quiet. Except for the occasional gunshots in my neighborhood and the sirens.
He's kidding. He's kidding.
but every once in a while, the voices come. All of a sudden, these characters that you're trying to create on a written page, they become so ingrained in your mind, and they're just so real. And it just seems like all of a sudden, the dialogue for them just starts falling into place, and it's really kind of magical. Now, this is the first time I've ever said this publicly because I don't want to be locked up. Okay, all right. But now
he's already locked up.
I'm already locked up. I'm committed. We've got just a little bit left. Now, listen. I want you to tell us. We mentioned your company, your real estate company, and I want you to give a big plug for that company who's keeping you alive while you're making your career happen. Okay, so who is that?
It's Keller Williams. There's so many offices. They're a big company, but the actual office is Keller Williams DTC, which I don't know if I mentioned this before, John and Stacy, but I was featured on House Hunters last year of May 2024. So I have an episode out there with House Hunters, and if anybody is looking to buy a house, they're waiting for me to do another episode here in Colorado.
Well, I think I think absolutely for sure. Now we're coming up pretty soon on just about a minute and a half to go. So
okay,
if someone wants to get in touch with you, Ellie, maybe that's in the business that would have a part for a commercial or a movie or just whatever the case might be. What would be either a website that they could go to or an email address? If you could go ahead and give us that right now, that would be great.
Sure. I'll give my email address because honestly, you can, if you look up my name on the web, on Google you Google it, it'll pop up. But my email address is Allie@PathexisTalent.com. So ALLIE at Pathexis is spelled CATHEXIS and then talent.com.
Great. Well, fantastic. We want to thank you so very much for being a part of our show. Until next time, I'm Stacy Hovis.
And I'm John Brandon.
Take care.
Thank you, John and Stacy. Thank you so much.
We'll see you at the movies.
Great interview, Allie. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.